Americans, this is Paul Harvey. Stand by for news. I guess I know now what keeps doctors doctoring. The greatest reward that any of us ever enjoy is what we get from being helpful to somebody else. And doctors are frequently credited with healing, sometimes with extending life itself. And I've tasted just a smidgen of that in the many letters I receive from grateful people who learn from listening here about Neutrogena T-Gel. I just had not realized how awful some scalp problems can be. Dermatologists know, of course, and for years they've known that for serious scalp problems such as psoriasis and eczema and dermatitis, there's been only coal tar as a remedy. Well, now Neutrogena has made the coal tar remedy so pleasant in a new product called Neutrogena T-Gel. Along with it, you can get T-Gel Conditioner, which contains Neutar, a therapeutic agent that leaves your hair clean and silky soft. So now dermatologists can prescribe it with a smile instead of a grimace. Neutrogena T-Gel and T-Gel Conditioner. The pulse of today's news is on page 1. United States aviation experts have been in Japan investigating what happened last month. Remember, a United Airlines 747 with only one of its 4 engines operating limped into Tokyo and landed safely. It has been ascertained that the loaded 747 flew the last 47 minutes of that flight on one engine, which, and I quote, is beyond that plane's flying capabilities. Yankee go home. Tens of thousands of radical rioting students in the streets of Seoul, South Korea this morning, armed with clubs and rocks and firebombs and screaming, Yankee go home. Scores have been injured. Police are trying to disperse them with tear gas. These student rioters are demanding that South Korea and North Korea be one again. At the same time, Americans in China have been warned by that government that they may be in danger. There has been a terrorist threat against Americans in Beijing. They say the terrorists are from a third country. How are things stateside? Good. United States businesses will spend a lot more money improving and expanding this year than last year. Last year, capital spending increased 1.7%. This year, it'll increase 11.9%, the biggest increase in spending for new plants and new equipment in years. And there's sunshine over Silicon Valley. The United States semiconductor market has record billing as of last month, more than $1 billion. And in agribusiness, the USDA now says we'll export another $1 billion worth of farm products this year for a total of $33.5 billion. Farm exports will bring into the United States $5.6 billion more than last year. And Americans are eating more oats. Since evidence that eating oats reduces cholesterol, oatmeal sales are up 15%, and oat bran sales are up 100%. On the commodities market, oat futures sold for $1.60 a bushel just 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, $2.35. If you're building or buying a new home, please hear this. There is a new federal law to help protect home buyers. Effective June 19, an amendment to the Safe Drinking Water Act. It specifies that the drinking water system in all new homes must be assembled with lead-free solder. Now, most Americans are aware that lead in drinking water is potentially dangerous, but only 1 in 5 of us has been insisting on lead-free solder in new houses. Now the law requires it. The new solder, called Silver Bright, contains no lead. Unless the plumbing in your new house is lead-free, you may not be able to get a government loan. Billy Graham in the Soviet Union, an official guest of the Russian Orthodox Church. He's attending a meeting of that church's council today at the Zagorsk, and tomorrow he'll speak in Bolshoi Theater. Now, page 2. Paul Harvey, why do you emphasize Bayer aspirin when there are so many pain relievers on the market? Well, that is a fair question. Paul Harvey considered that choice very deliberately because I did want to be as certain as your doctor wants me to be and as confident as you want me to be before I recommend anything. And number one, pure Bayer aspirin has been around for 85 years. So while Anacin was adding caffeine and Bufferin was adding other stuff, doctors continued to prescribe pure Bayer aspirin. Reasons number 2, 3, and 4 are these. Pure Bayer aspirin's an analgesic. It relieves pain. Pure Bayer aspirin's an antipyretic. It reduces fever. And pure Bayer aspirin provides the kind of anti-inflammatory activity required to relieve arthritis. Tylenol, for example, does not have the ability to reduce inflammation and relieve arthritis that you find in pure Bayer aspirin. Now, believe me, all of those other fellas would love to call theirs pure aspirin if they could, but only Bayer can. Miami Beach. 3 fifth-grade boys. Fifth-grade boys are accused of raping other boys in the schoolroom washroom. Boys 10, 11, and 12 told police that they were mimicking things they had seen on late-night cable TV. This is from Phil Stanford of the Portland Oregonian. It was graduation day at Harper High School, southeastern Oregon. The gymnasium was decorated with streamers of pink and white. Perhaps 100 relatives and friends filled the folding chairs, mostly farmers and ranchers. With no big budget, the invited speaker was one of their own, Pete Fenton, who raises sheep on a small spread just outside town. Pete's also driver of the Harper High School bus, and his wife Marvell is the school cook. And Pete Fenton got to his feet, and he said, quote, "I want to begin by talking to you young graduates about some very important people. Your friends and neighbors who support this school with time they can't afford and money they can't spare. It's a good school, and it'll start you out to be anything you want to be. And you can succeed. Those who graduated before you have succeeded." He mentioned that nationally 1 in 4 drop out of high school. At Harper High, we've had only 2 dropouts in 25 years. And then Pete Fenton told this story. He said, "One of my sons had just started college, and the first night a bunch were sitting around drinking Kool-Aid when one guy said to another, 'You're a graduate of Bend High School.' The other fellow said, 'Yes. How did you know?' The reply was, 'By the ring on your finger.' Then he pointed to another and he said, 'You're a graduate of Boise High.' The guy said, 'Yes. How did you know?' And he replied, 'By the ring on your finger.' Then one of them said to my son, 'Mark, you're a graduate of Harper High.' Mark asked, 'How did you know?' The guy said, 'By the dirt under your fingernails.' And they all had a big laugh. But my son was embarrassed by the put-down of Harper High. Mark said he'd thought about those guys lately, and most of them have not amounted to much. They didn't know how, or they didn't want to work. Some got into drugs from boredom. He said that thanks to his parents, he learned how to work, and thanks to this town, he was given an opportunity to work. So the moral is this: although Mark's nails weren't clean, he was not afraid to get his hands dirty, and you shouldn't be either. So the joke was on them. After those graduation exercises, there was a reception line. Everybody got a chance to give the graduates a hug. And of course, they did not forget to congratulate Pete Fenton either. Some of them even said it was the best graduation speech they'd ever heard. Graduation ceremonies have been canceled, however, at Fairview High School in Pennsylvania because of threats by some students to disrupt the proceedings, threats to commit violence against school officials, and maybe to stage an on-stage suicide. And because of those threats, at Fairview High, the baccalaureate and graduation services have been called off. Page 3.
Domino's Delicious Pizza, limited delivery area. Get ready, America. Here comes 3 hours of the greatest sounds in country music. I'm Lee Arnold. This week's Country Road features the biggest hits of today and some classics from the past, too. We'll reach into the mailbag to read your cards and letters, and the Stargazing Report takes you behind the scenes in Nashville. The album review this week features Diamonds and Dirt, the latest from Rodney Crowell. And Barbara Mandrell sits in with us for a special conversation.
On a Country Road to be heard this Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on AM 1240.
San Francisco has lost more than it can afford to lose. Cyril Magnin is dead. Mr. San Francisco, a vigorous civic worker and philanthropist, a heart attack at 88. My, how he did love his city. Mr. Magnin once said when he died, he wanted people to remember only that he lived a full life. He lived a full life. Greenville, Mississippi, that Air National Guard cargo plane was making touch-and-go practice landings when it crashed and exploded, all 6 aboard dead. A new honor and a new responsibility for television. Eight of 12 leading pianists believe that the piano will go the way of the harpsichord into the museum. Sportlight, Chicago's ice hockey Blackhawks have a new coach. Bob Murdoch is out. Mike Keenan has been hired. 10 years ago, Rennie Curry of New Orleans was 73, and he shot a golf score of 73. When he was 78, he shot a 78. When he was 79, he shot a 79, and when he was 80, he shot an 80. He's improving with age. Next month, Rennie will be 84, and at Metairie Country Club, he just shot an 83. Greenwood High School in Wisconsin is small enough so that its athletes are likely to participate in all sports. This year, they won the state basketball championship, and many of the same players just won the state baseball championship. Tom Bucher coaches both. A Chicago veterinarian will get 3 years in prison, or at least he could. Walter Wilkie is charged with administering a drug to a thoroughbred before a race. Muhammad Ali, the former heavyweight champion, now suffering Parkinson's syndrome, says that he must take medication every 3 hours to relieve the symptoms. But he tells the Washington Post today that he's not brain damaged, that his slurred speech comes from fear of crowds. He says he's aware that it's difficult for some people to accept him as anything less than Superman, and it's not easy for him either. Ali's illness is a progressive neurological degeneration related to Parkinson's disease caused by blows which he suffered during his boxing career. Ed Red Gorbachev may mean well. He may indeed want to be more friendly toward us, but will entrenched Communist Party officials let him? A crucial Communist Party conference is scheduled June 28th, and 8 of Gorbachev's most staunch supporters are not invited. This is one of the reasons President Reagan has said that Gorbachev may want more than he can get. That's why, says President Reagan, we must trust everybody but cut the cards. Now, page 4. I have a last-minute suggestion. If you've run out of ideas for Father's Day, there are some dandies in the True Value Gift Ideas Circular. If there isn't one in your mailbox, there's one at your True Value hardware store. One thing which I recommend without any reservation is that heavy-duty Master Mechanic 12-gallon wet-dry vacuum for the home workshop or for the garage. Has a couple of extensions and a combination nozzle with a squeegee to pick up wet spills as well as dry. And there's another thing at True Value. A Turbo Wash pressure washer. A powerful sprayer. You can use it to clean the car or the patio or the driveway or the screens or even second-story windows. And it includes some extra accessories like a 4-way spray tip and liquid soap and bonus wax cartridges. For Father's Day gift ideas, I don't know any better source than this circular that's now available at True Value. And everything in it is, I mean, True Value. Why are illicit drugs coming into the United States faster than our lawmen can intercept them? Well, Charles Boucher, who is Comptroller General of the United States, says the answer is simple. Americans want drugs. And he says they're willing to pay a high price to get them. He says we're presently spending $3 billion a year to try to reduce the supply. But we're spending only $1 billion to try to reduce the demand. He says our emphasis is backward. Portland, Oregon has given up trying to stop drug users from using, but will now distribute clean needles free so they won't spread AIDS. Brazil, usually a land of golden sun and warm beaches, is shivering. There's frost on the farmland, biggest snowstorm in 30 years in southern Brazil. Rio's beaches are deserted, and Rio's bars are selling hot chocolate. Our For What It's Worth department realizes that this political campaign is being conducted partly on the bumpers of automobiles. And I am collecting partisan bumper stickers. Send yours along, Republican or Democrat, so that we can have a balance of both and review them all together during some soon visit. But can you imagine one bumper sticker I've received which works for both parties? The Jesse Jackson supporters produced a bumper sticker that says, "Run, Jesse, run." The sticker says, "Run, Jesse, run." But I think they're going to discontinue using that one because J.L. Inskeep reports that in Phoenix, Arizona, motorists are sticking that one on their front bumper. Paul Harvey. Good day.
Thank you, Paul. And now it's time for local news with Mary Ann Perry. Mary?
A Preston woman who was accused of embezzling money from an Easton business. According to police, a warrant has been issued for the arrest of Shirley Clara Perger, who is believed to have embezzled a large amount of cash from Corbin Parks Incorporated last March. Perger is a former bookkeeper of that company and was employed at the time the money was reported missing. Police believe she's fled from the immediate area. Officials are asking anyone with information about Perger's whereabouts to contact Easton Police at 822-1111, and all information...